You'll never will it ever end me. I like ice, but you run on yourself, cause it was about war. 58 counties screaming for the mind. The war's coming forth, never with the disguise. Another A-bomb for you, who really wants it. Shroud medals in my vocabulary. Rolling with the punches, I'm roping and jumping. Dealing with the problems, I got to be coping. Making it fit, and I click just like a Lego. I'll be Casio, but you can be Tango from the FBI to the CIA. I'm clearing out the path and here to LA. I be from C-Town, kicking the roof there, ripping up the mic and way past sundown. As a world turn. As a world turn.
And we're back. We got a new playoff team.
We do. I had to wear the jersey today.
Baby.
I had to wear the jersey today, and I also I hate the quick tone shift, but I had to hang the Blue Jackets jersey today in memory of Johnny and Matthew. I had to do it. And again, what happened in that situation was terrible. So thoughts and feelings going out. I had to say this first because when I saw it, my hockey heart absolutely broke. So again, prayers and everything out to all Blue Jackets fans and Johnny's family and his friends. That situation is just absolutely awful. But yeah, we're here and ready to talk about baseball, man. We officially got 2 playoff teams now. So half of the major minor league affiliates are in the postseason, and a third one is well on its way. Sir, we're going to dive into all that later. But first, how are you? What have you been up to?
Doing good. A lot of obviously football. My Michigan Wolverines are 1-0.
I got to tell you, I wasn't impressed with either of our teams.
No, well,
this weekend.
You guys had essentially a scrimmage game. I wasn't impressed with Davis Warren or Alex Orji at all.
Nope.
But
that wide receiver room outside of Colston Loveland, uninspired, bad.
No, but Colston Loveland
potential
is
Heisman. Colston
Maybe.
Loveland is. I don't go that far. Colston Loveland is great. We all know that. Donovan Edwards had a bad game. Khalil Mullings knew he was going to be good.
Oh yeah.
Again, I was telling you before, I didn't really like that quarterback room. And it kind of played out that way. That's got to improve. Big one this week against Texas.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think y'all are going to do well. I'm sorry.
I don't either. I mean, it's strictly the quarterback. I think Edwards is going to do fine. I think Loveland is going to be himself. It's just who's going to get him the ball.
And Edwards and Mullings will do fine. Texas defense is good too. Ohio State, I thought Will Howard was good. I really did. Had some moments there, and a lot of his incompletions were wide receiver drops. That's okay. First game jitters happens, but that defense is electric, man. That defense is so good. I'm so happy with that defense. And of course, Henderson. I could sit here and talk about that forever, but overall, I was impressed. The offense could have played a little bit better, but the defense. Amazing. Perfect. Hey, this isn't the college football podcast though, is it? I mean, we could sit here and talk college football all day. I know you and I both could. This is a baseball podcast, man. Shall we dive on in to kind of talk about what happened around minor league baseball, man?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a huge week for one of those teams in Lake County. Obviously, they already have a playoff spot, so everything up until this point just essentially practice for them. Well, Columbus still in a race. Lynchburg's pretty much slipped out. I mean,
and we're going to start with Lynchburg as we dive on into, and again, we're doing this on a weird day because of Labor Day and everything. We had to move the podcast to Wednesday, and normally when you hear me go over stats, it's over the past series. Today, you'll hear the stats over the past 7 days because some teams have already played a game, if not 2, in their next series and things like that. But we're first just going to start by going through what the affiliates did in their past series. And well, for the Lynchburg Hillcats, it definitely was not kind to them. I have to re-pull up their schedule here, but I believe they only won 1 game against Carolina. Yeah, that's correct. 1 out of 5. There was a game that got rained out and was not the result that you needed from Lynchburg at all. In fact, they've already played 2 games in their final series of the year against Fredericksburg, and they've lost those 2, and they have officially been eliminated from playoff contention. And honestly, with Churio injured and with guys like Velasquez and and others getting called up to Lake County and moving on there really isn't much more in Lynchburg at least that we know of as of right now. And there's going to be no playoff baseball for them. We'll see if they can do well in their final series against Fredericksburg. But overall, the team as a whole for both halves is going to finish above 500. I don't know. Successful year, disappointing year for Lynchburg in your eyes.
I mean, they had a lot of young pieces to work with. Obviously, you had Velasquez, you had Churio. Um, I really thought this might have been a year for Lynchburg to really clinch. Obviously, when you get into low A, it's a really tough thing to do. Your roster's moving all over the place. But another big thing that happened this week is our guy Rafe Schlesinger. He made his pro ball debut, 2 innings, nothing crazy. I mean, started him out with 2 innings, but only gave up a hit, and he had a couple of Ks to go with it. So he had a solid outing. So
yeah, and
if you need something positive to come out of it to look to next year, there's one right there. You maybe found a starter.
And if you want some guys that have performed well, again, this is over the past 7 days. Not a lot of home runs for Lynchburg recently, but Fran Aldoui, a shortstop in 3 games, has hit 364 over the past 7 days. Good numbers there. Logan Clark, who's kind of that new catcher with Engel gone, and some of the Engel was there at County.
Lake County.
Velasquez gone because they like to play him at catcher. Logan Clark stepped into a bigger role. He's hitting 385 over the past 7 days. It's just the offense wasn't really there for Lynchburg. The pitching was pretty solid, but overall for Lynchburg, I mean, again, single A ball, man. It's really tough to kind of say this team was disappointed or this team was really, this team was disappointing or this team overachieved because, like you said, the roster's moving everywhere and this and that and the other. But we're going to move on from Lynchburg. We will tell you how they did against Fredericksburg in our next show, but then that'll probably end up concluding our coverage for Lynchburg for the season. When you move on now to the Lake County Captains, took 4 of 6 in their previous series. Again, we already know they're playing playoff baseball. Travis Bazana hit yet another home run. You look at the past 7 days, the right fielder, Jonah Advincula, has hit 400. So really good numbers there. He has struck out 5 times, but regardless, in 5 games, 15 at-bats, has hit 400. Really good stuff from him. Kevin Rivas, a shortstop, has hit well. Cozart kind of struggled there, but Velasquez really struggled. Has hit well, though, 313 in the past 7 days. And so, and then Matt Wilkinson as well, with a guy we're going to talk about later in the show, Kyle Manzardo, getting called up to Cleveland. He is sort of, to what you said before the show, graduated from that prospect list. And so now Matt Wilkinson is a guy that is in there at number 30 in the top 30, a guy that absolutely deserves it and pitched really well that past series. So thoughts from Lake County.
I mean, we've pretty much hammered it home since we've started this. I mean, there's not much that Lake County can play for anymore. They've already clinched the first half spot. So at this point, it's just essentially practice and just scrimmage games up until that playoff series, which it looks like it's going to be Dayton. You have 5 games left. No, it is going to be Dayton. Detroit's minor league team can't even catch them. So yeah, it's going to be Dayton, and there's only 5 games that separate both of us. So in my opinion, this is going to be a really good series, and we'll obviously touch more on that next week as
we're going to have a lot
finalized. It's going to go heavy into detail on that playoff first round matchup coming up. Yeah. But this week, you just got to get everybody straight, make sure everybody's healthy, and
that's the biggest thing, right?
Just get ready for the playoffs. Yeah,
that's the biggest thing, right? Is make sure everyone stays healthy, and just have your best guys in the lineup. And I think you and I should probably put together a lineup of, hey, this is what we want to see from Lake County. These are the guys you expect to do well, pitching matchups, everything like that. And hey, if we have any Dayton Dragons fans out there, we'll be covering your team too a little bit next week. And if you know a Dayton Dragons fan, tag them, list them, do whatever you need to do, because we're going to preview that matchup in depth, have things both on Lake County and Dayton. It's going to be a really good preview. I have a good feeling. We're going to skip the team that we're really excited to talk about. And I know that's unorthodox for us to do, but it's going to segue perfectly into what we want to talk about next, because let's go ahead and talk about the AAA team in the Columbus Clippers. We're going to talk about Kyle Manzardo later in the show, but the Clippers in their past series, when I go ahead and find it right here, they I mean, fared really well. A crazy, crazy series opening game, an 11-10 win. And I mean, all the wins they had in that series were really close. They won a game, I think, 7-6, if I do have that correct. Yeah, 7-6, 5-4, 6-4. And then, yeah, they took 4 of 6 there. And again, kind of the team that has been trailing Columbus has been the one that's playing them next. Columbus has sort of wiped them out. They get to play Durham next. And they actually had a Labor Day game, which is really bizarre. And you don't really see that a whole lot.
You don't see
But
Monday
they have.
games at all.
Yep. But they have lost both games that they've played against Durham so far. The next game is not today. It is actually on Thursday. So they get a little bit of a weird day off today for the Columbus Clippers. Jonathan Rodriguez in the past 7 days has 2 home runs. Juan Brito has a home run before Manzardo got called up. He had a home run in that past series. George Valera continues to be hot. He has a home run. In fact, Valera in the past 7 days has hit 438. He has been on fire. He's been really, really good. Again, we'll talk about Manzardo later in the show. Pitching, I mean, we've hammered this point home on Tristan McKenzie before. He just doesn't have it right now at all. But pitching otherwise, for the most part, has been really, really good for Columbus. They have a 3.5 game lead right now. Indianapolis is back there in second place. Durham, a team that they should be able to beat. Their other series against St. Paul and Toledo, teams they should be able to beat. They got to bounce back against Durham later on this series. But thoughts from Columbus in that past series there this past week?
I thought they played pretty good. Obviously, you're 3.5 up on Indianapolis, so you're gonna have to play tough down the stretch if you want to get in. Obviously, you have 2 more weeks after this week, opposed to for single A just the rest of this week. So you got to keep going if you're Columbus. But I mean, like you said, Manzardo obviously coming up, which we'll talk about later. He's helped the Guardians just so much. Jonathan Rodriguez, another guy, really want to just give him another crack at that lineup. I know he has a ton of power, so John Kenzie's kind of making up for Rodriguez, maybe not doing as well as we'd want to at the major league level. But DeLauder came into the series hitting .316. He had 3 RBIs, so he's obviously putting it together in Columbus, which is what we love to see, but he's back on the IR. So health's just been a big thing with him. Same with Valera. If Valera can stay healthy, I think he's going to be really good, obviously, going forward. McKenzie somehow picked up a win again. 5 innings, only gave up 2 runs, and he got the win. So I think just a really, really good series just for Columbus. I think we lost Nate here, so I'm just going to keep it going. Cantillo and Webb picked up the wins. They've straight all around. Ever since they got to Columbus, they've just been on fire. Webb, a guy who I really liked when he was down in Akron, and he's been one of the main pieces one of the main reasons why we're in the playoffs. Same with Doug Nikhazy, who picked up the loss but pitched a really good game. Joey Cantillo. So he's back down there. I think he can do good things in the major league level. They were trying to use him in the bullpen a little bit. That might be a route you want to take. Remember, he hasn't done great things as a starter, but neither did Hunter Gaddis. And now with moving Hunter Gaddis into the bullpen, in my opinion, he's in my opinion, he's a top 3 reliever in the league. Obviously, you have Class A, but if the Class A would somehow, God forbid, go down, Hunter Gaddis is extremely great out of that bullpen. Love everything that Hunter Gaddis has. So if you can maybe move something like that with Cantillo, then I don't know. I just like everything that Cantillo really has. I think we got Nate back here. Are we back?
We are. It is time for a new laptop, is exactly what that just told me. But hey, again, this is anything can happen like that. I think it's the second time that's actually happened to me. I don't know if you've transitioned into talking about Akron yet.
No,
so are we still on Columbus?
Covered a lot of Cantillo. I think he can be like a Hunter Gaddis role. Remember when Gaddis got brought up, he was getting rocked in the starting position.
Oh, yeah.
They put him in the
Absolutely.
bullpen. Dude, in my opinion, is the top 3 reliever in the league out of the bullpen. He's just been on fire. So
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I definitely would agree with that. And I think even Cantillo had some pretty good games this past weekend as well. Or not this past weekend, this past week.
Picked up the win.
So,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, he did. So good things there. But shall we transition into the team that we really want to talk about today?
Oh yeah,
Of course,
I've
the
been
team that
waiting for this all year.
of course, the team that I interned for this summer, the team to where it literally says it right down here for you under your handle, the team that you follow the closest, they're back in the postseason. And I wish I had a broom with me because they got the broom and the sweep on. I told you to have some confidence in this team. I told you, man. I told you to have some confidence.
Hey man, you don't want to ever count them out, but we might be looking at a repeat.
There we go. There's glares.
Or not a
Oh,
repeat, but we might get another one of these rings.
well,
So
let's talk about this team for a second, right? Because Valdez had himself a really good series. Yes, guys like Kafish struggled, but Lampy was able to get back there and play some really, really, really good baseball. Burjo stepping in for Petey
oh
Halpin.
yeah,
Oh my goodness, he was
big time.
amazing. And then you have a couple guys you want to talk about out of the bullpen that have just been on fire lately.
I mean, bullpen, I've hammered it home all year. Outside one exception, they've all been on absolute fire this season. Ross Carver has switched into that bullpen nicely. Lenny Torres is obviously my reliever of the year. Dude, just insane. Alaska Abney came up, struggled through his first 2-3 games. Other than that, dude has been insane for the
He's
Ducks.
looked really good.
Trey Benton, before he went down, absolute dog in that bullpen. Bradley Hanner, a dude who shut out that game for the Ducks to go to the postseason. He is right up there with Lenny Torres, man. I really think that he's going to be something special for the Guardians in the future. Dude is just insane. Tyler Thornton, he's been on fire. Just everybody in that bullpen. I'm probably missing a couple names here. Davis Sharp has been fire. Nobody else on the top of the mind. I guarantee I'm forgetting somebody else. Mangus Ellert's another dude that came up.
Yeah.
So just everybody in that bullpen's been on absolute fire. And then Trenton Denholm, a guy who just recently came up. Talk about
only one strikeout, but
being
my goodness.
great. I mean, 2-0 this week. Over 12 innings, only gave up 1 run through 12. Dude has just been on fire. He's meshed with Messick. Peterson, great. Obviously, Davenport, the ace of that staff, and he had a great game.
Both of our guys got to win this week, I think. Both of our guys got to win.
Scoreless for Thor on Saturday.
Yeah. So Peterson had himself a scoreless debut as well. A little bit more hits given up than Davenport with a little less strikeouts, but both of them picked up a win this past week. I mean, it just feels like this is one of those situations where it's not always the best team that does well in the postseason. It's the team that is playing the hottest, has the hottest hand right now. And we know that they just lost that game yesterday to the Richmond Flying Squirrels. But all you had to do, and again, a lot easier said than done, was get that sweep against Bowie, and you were in the postseason. You were probably in the postseason even if you didn't get the sweep. And I think even 5 out of 6 would have sufficed. I mean, they just went for good measure, man. They went with the sweep. And I mean, I know I just used the analogy that's not always the best team. It's the hottest team that has the most success. Akron might be both. They really might be both.
I'd like to add on that. One of the hardest playing teams out there. I mean, they don't give up. The amount of walk-off hits that we've had this season has just been insane. And I mean, the king of all of them has been Milan Tolentino. I mean, I think the dude has up to 4 or 5 now, which is just insane. But I mean, you look at Davenport. If you didn't watch the game, there was a play. He took a ball. It might have been Khalil. There was a play at first, and Davenport fell down, and like the runner hit him in the face with his cleat. Like, I thought it didn't look good at all. Davenport got up, shook it off, screamed a couple words that we're not allowed to say.
Don't read lips, kids. Don't read lips.
And he
don't read lips.
Fired through it. Dude did Davenport things. So I mean, that right there just kind of symbolizes just what this team has just done all year. Yordis Valdez has, obviously, you mentioned it, 3 home runs just this series, which I think might have been what he had coming in. He might be up to 6 now. I think he had 3.
And he's such. I mean, we've hammered this home before on the show, but he's such a good defensive player too. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, but I mean, Burgos, another dude that literally we don't win that game Saturday if it's not for him. He's the one that drove in the 2 go-ahead runs. Just it's that next
Fit in
mentality.
nicely for Petey Halpin.
It's that next up mentality here in Akron. Obviously, you want Petey back in that lineup. He's one of the better players that you
So
have.
let's transition into talking about Akron now, because I want to ask you that question. Do you have any idea if Petey's going to be back? Because Akron still does have 2 series left.
So we play
into the postseason.
Richmond the rest of this week, and then Hartford next week's our last one.
Yep. And Hartford is a playoff team in the other division in
Yep.
the Eastern League. Of course, Akron will be playing Erie in that postseason series, and we will have that in-depth preview a lot more in 2 weeks. So next week will be Lake County. The week after will be Akron, and hopefully we have a playoff series to talk about with the Columbus Clippers as well. But let's transition into talking about Akron here. I mean, so Rugded Odor was the manager of that team back in 2021, 2022. Correct me.
Ruglis, yep.
Yeah, Ruglis. Yeah, sorry.
Best manager I've ever seen. Just to put that out there.
What year was that? Because I don't know why. Okay, 21. That's what I thought. So I don't know why I was blanking on that. But I mean, DeCenzo had a pretty solid interview afterwards. I know you're necessarily not the biggest fan of him, but this, I think, is truly more of, I mean, look, at the end of the day, the team does not make it this far into the postseason without a manager that can get them that far. And Greg DeCenzo has definitely been that. You could argue that Ruglis Odor is better, and I would probably end up agreeing with you. But I think for as solid as a job as the manager here has done, I think the players are just on fire right now. They are
for
hot.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's really not a lot of shade to DeCenzo. He just makes some bad decision makings. In my personal opinion, when it comes down to it, he doesn't really know. And it's more so on the pitching side. He doesn't really know who to put in and when to put guys in, when to pull guys. It's just kind of the DeCenzo way. I mean, offensively, I don't really makes any bad decisions. It's all just kind of on the pitching side. But like you put it, I mean, it's just been the players that all season. I think it's been the next man up mentality, whether it's guys getting released like Gabriel Rodriguez and Connor Cox, who I pray to God latches on somewhere because he is, or we bring him back, but or guys getting promoted up with Doug Nikhazy and Ryan Webb, and then you have guys like Stefan Messick and Denholm come in and just replace them and just do an equal, if not better job.
You have to throw Burgos's name in there as well. I mean,
for
getting
sure.
called up at
obviously
this point in the season,
he's one of the newer guys. But yeah, like you said, and then CJ Kafis, I know it was a while ago, all the way back in June when Joe Naranjo was released, but he stepped in and. No shade to Joe Naranjo, but it was night and day when you had Kafis in the lineup. Obviously, Naranjo has a way better glove in the field, Gold Glover, but CJ Kafis is hitting 300 with, I want to say 17-ish home runs, or somewhere around that mark.
Yeah, and that's combined between Lake County and Akron.
And that's my MVP. So, I mean, it's just been the next man up. I love everything that this team really has to offer. So.
And you love that they're back playing some postseason baseball, right? I mean, come on. That's just...
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've been waiting.
That's what we have it.
More than 2 seasons for this. It's going on 3. So,
yeah, and
it's been a minute.
They were close last year. They couldn't get it done. This year they did. And they got it done in a big way. And I understand that the celebration in Akron was electric, my friend.
Oh, yeah. I was right in the dugout camera bay. Bradley Hanner got that last strikeout, and they were just going nuts. So, yeah, it was sweet just to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I absolutely bet. Okay. Unless you have anything else to talk about, the only other talking point that I think I would like to talk about is Kyle Manzardo.
Yeah. Dude has just obviously been just insane for the 3 or 4 games that he's obviously played with us. First game, dude just goes out there like he's been in the league for 10 plus years and just hits back, or definitely 2 home runs. I'm not sure if they were back to back, but obviously he's just been balling out for us, and it's just great to have that production at the plate.
So that was the big point of contention with Manzardo the first time he got called up back in May, June, whenever it was that he got that call, right? Is look, he hit doubles like nobody else, and he probably still is top 10 on the team in doubles. And I think I say that every time I talk about Kyle Manzardo, but it's true. And it's something that, you have to latch onto because he has a good bat. And we don't know how much he's going to see the field with this Cleveland organization, but as the roster expanded to 28 players, Kyle Manzardo was the guy that got that call. And I don't know if we really talked about that being the most likely call up last week, but I think we definitely kind of sprinkled in the doubt that, hey, we both kind of figure if they're going to call someone up, Manzardo's going to be towards the top of that list, right? Which is exactly what happened. And Manzardo, the gripe with him was, and this is where I was going with this, I get sidetracked a lot, apologies, but doubles machine. Hit home runs in AAA, could not take that same power and put it in the major league level. He did that in his first game after being called up. He had 2 home runs. What power in the major league? Here, I'll show you. Boom, right over the fence twice. Kyle Manzardo is here, man. Again, as you've said, he's officially graduated from that prospect list. This is the second time that he's been called up. He's going to stay with this team for the postseason. More likely than not, there's no way, and I see no way anyone else gets sent up or down really between any of the affiliates unless some major injury happens. But Kyle Manzardo is going to be with the Guardians to stay. And I mean, first off, quick hitting question. Best move the Guardians could have made, yes or no?
I mean, it's hard to argue no with the production you've gotten from this guy. I mean, you needed a bat, and that's where you got him. John Kenzie Noel obviously waking up has helped in that aspect. But I obviously there's no complaint there. The Alex Cobb move, it felt like the only thing that you could even do, right? With Cantillo not being there consistently, Dion just not having a great year in AAA, and then Nikhazy and Webb just being too young. It's the only really addition you could make. So I just really want another starting pitcher, but you really can't do anything else besides bring back Alex Cobb. So Manzardo part of it, I love, absolutely.
Do you know
it's the pitching side?
Do you know if Manzardo has played the field at all since he's been up there?
No, but he's playing first tonight, so it'll be interesting to see how he can balance that and hitting because he's only been DHing. I want to say, let me check real quick.
Yeah, I'm very curious in that because, I mean, look, this is going away from Kyle Manzardo for just a second. This is the Guardians team that was absolutely struggling. I don't know if you follow the Gardo meter on Twitter, but it was down in the "it never began" category because that's the way it felt. It felt like, I mean, man, just after the All-Star break, this team has not clicked. They have not found their rhythm. They finally had garnered a little bit of a lead back in the division after the Royals came back and tied it before the Guardians won the series finale to keep that lead. They've won the past 2 on the road against the Royals, series finale tonight. Then they got to go on the road for 3 against the Dodgers, which is not going to be fun, but they have a 4.5 game lead in the division now. They're starting to climb back up towards the best record in baseball. They have 80 wins. I mean, and look, it's not just Kyle Manzardo coming up and giving this team some life. Yes, he absolutely did that, and I think it was a wonderful move the Guardians made. But I told you Lane Thomas was going to find it. He finally hit a home run. Thank you, Lane Thomas.
God.
Finally. I am vindicated. Finally. Because I told you Lane Thomas was going to find it, and I believe his home run came off of a left-handed pitcher too. So, vindicated.
At least he got something going. I don't know if it's really going to stick around. I hope it does for obvious reasons, but yeah, I mean, he's found it. And the answer to your question, Fry's DHing tonight, so no Naylor in the lineup. Which
I'm fine with that. You've already won the series. You have a pretty comfortable lead.
I mean, the biggest thing, in my opinion, you can't let him get hurt at all. Which
you can't let him get hurt.
Thank God he hasn't this year, but you know he's been injury prone in the past. So the fact that he stayed healthy all year is just
Naylor,
great.
Ramirez, Kwan, Gavin Williams again,
Nobody.
Tanner Bybee.
Can't let anybody get hurt.
No.
No. Yeah.
Knock on all the wood for days because no. I don't know what I would do with myself if someone gets hurt. I mean, because this team is starting to play well. I guarantee you, if we beat the Royals tonight, that Gardo-meter will be in the "we never left" or it's always began. Like it's going to be
For
there
sure.
because this team is finding a rhythm. The Guardians are finding their rhythm.
And
A
you
lot
watched
of people.
Bobby last night. Dude looked dominant, back to his old
He looks
self, and that's what
great.
you're
He
going to
looks
need out of
great.
Bobby during the playoffs. I mean, he always struggles that first inning, and it seems like as the game goes on, he struggles in the sixth as well, and that's where normally if he can get out of that,
Williams
it's a
had
good
himself
game.
a great.
Yeah, Gavin, you need him back too.
And good job, Stephen Vogt. Williams went 7. There we go.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
For sure. But I think come playoff time, you're really only going to cut that rotation down to 3 guys, especially if you get the bye. In my opinion, only really need them to go 4, especially with that bullpen. Or not 4, 5. If you can get Bobby Williams just to go 5 great outings, the bullpen's going to shut it down.
I think you want 6. I think 6 is optimal.
Really?
Because that's going to save guys in the. I mean, 5 is fine, I guess. But all it takes, and look, that's still 4 innings of baseball. That's a lot, and you're at least going to get to one part of the order twice. And if that's the top of the order, that's really, really dangerous. Even the meat, the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys in some of these lineups that the Guardians could play in the playoffs are going to be dangerous. They could play the Orioles, who 1 through 9 have a stacked lineup. They could play the Yankees, and we know what the Yankees have done to the Guardians. They could play the Royals.
$1 billion on their lineup,
Yeah,
so
they
there's
could
no
play
weak
the Royals.
part in that lineup at all.
Yeah, I mean, they could play the Royals. We know what the Royals have done to the Guardians this year, and we know how good of a lineup the Royals have. Bobby Witt, Salvador Perez, and many other players. They've been good. The Houston Astros, who are starting to find their rhythm. The Guardians could play them. There is a whole ton of fluctuation that can still go on within the American League right now. As it stands, I believe the Guardians have a first-round bye, which is good. Yeah, which is good. I'm going to be very curious to see who they end up playing in that first round, whether they fall to the wild card spot or whether they end up getting that first round bye.
And at the moment that we're doing this, because I looked back, I think it was earlier today or yesterday, MLB put out like the playoff bracket. If it were to end today or whatever, we'd play the winner of Minnesota and Baltimore. So,
really,
yeah,
because
Kansas City's Minnesota just passed Kansas City.
Oh, so they have that wild card spot now. Oh no,
no, they're all in, all 3, except
Kansas.
Kansas City would play Houston because they would be the 6th.
So I think you have 2 teams flipped because I'm looking at it right now. I think it's the Yankees and Twins that would play in the 4-5 because the Orioles have a half-game lead on the Yankees right now. And then it would be the Royals who would be playing the Astros. I mean, first of all, both of those series are going to be fantastic. Yeah. Maybe not the Yankees and Twins. I think the Yankees might roll them. But
for sure.
But when you take a look at the Royals Astros, woo, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
This can be a solid game. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, so let's continue our Manzardo talk because we kind of have backed off of it a little bit. Let's get back on the Manzardo train. Playing first base tonight. I don't think he played the field at all during his first stint with the Guardians. First game in the field here tonight, at least as both you and I understand it. What are you expecting out of Kyle Manzardo today?
I'm not trying to be the person, but I don't think the bat's going to be maybe all there with having to play both sides, both defense and offense. I mean, I've seen it with a lot of guys. They DH a while, they're good, and then they play the field. It's not totally down, but it's not as big as it was there. So, I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see. I think his glove's fine. I've seen plenty highlights of him just in Columbus. Great fielder. Way better than Naylor, I think. No discredit to Naylor, but because Naylor's a great fielder too, but I think Manzardo is just a way better fielder. But I think it should still be fine though, just where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going back to look at where he sort of played now because his first game was that first day of the month, right? September 1st, I believe, was his first
Yeah.
game.
Yep.
Is that right? Yeah. So first game back in the game against the Pirates, he went, I think, 2 for 3, 2 home runs, 2 solo shots. Good stuff there. In the game against the Royals on Monday, he went, I think, 0 for 3, really struggled. But in the game yesterday, he went 3 for 4, hit a double, really good stuff. But all 3 of those games, he played DH. So again, him shifting over to play first base now, that's what he played in Columbus. We all know he is not the best defensive first baseman, but neither is Josh Naylor. And you've seen how well he's played this season defensively at first. His defensive numbers, I think, for the most part, are right around, if not slightly above average, with which for a guy like Josh Naylor is good. It's
Yeah,
it,
for sure.
it's good. We know that Manzardo is probably not going to be that everyday first baseman, but I can also guarantee you, I don't know if the manager, Stephen Vogt, is going to go with the same lineup every single day in the postseason. I don't think you're going to see, I mean, yeah, you'll obviously see Quan leading off every single game because that's just where you play him, but I think the rest of the lineup is going to be changed around. I think Schneemann will get playing time. I think you're going to see Kyle Manzardo, John Kenzie Noel kind of rotate out of the DH spot. Maybe if one guy is struggling and one guy goes 0 for 2 for 2 Ks, you kind of throw the other one in. So if Noel is 0 for 2 with 2 Ks, you throw Manzardo in at the DH spot to see if he gets something going. I think there's going to be a lot of rotation during the postseason for this team. I think there's going to be a lot of rotation for, this team in the field. And look, to round out the season, the Guardians, again, the series finale against the Royals, series with the Dodgers coming up. And I know we took 2 of 3 from Baltimore in Baltimore earlier this season, but that was before the All-Star break. This team is starting to find their groove. The Dodgers have the best record in baseball. Shohei Ohtani is out of his absolute mind. That's going to be a tough series, but the rest of the way, I mean, it's teams that you could beat. The White Sox on the road, the Rays for 4 at home. Then you have a big series at home against the Twins. That's a 4-game set. Road against the Cardinals, home for 2 against the Reds, and home for 3 against the Astros to close things out. This is a really, really doable schedule for the gauntlet that the Guardians just ran, and that's part of why this team has not played too well. They've had to play a lot of really tough teams, and that can destroy confidence in a hurry. It's a very manageable schedule here down the stretch. And for Manzardo to fit in and play at first base tonight, if he's not going to take the first base spot from Josh Naylor. He's just not. But down the stretch here, I think you're going to see having Manzardo in the lineup more often than not is going to be a benefit to this Guardians team. We'll see how he plays defensively. I'm really excited to watch that.
What? This is like
it's just a theme, man.
It's a weekly thing. That's the
clip them all together. Clip them all together. Someone make an edit of every time one of my jerseys is fallen. I'm gonna get like Gorilla Tape or something.
It's not a show without them falling, man. We gotta start putting bets up on which one will fall first.
This might be the earliest it's ever fallen, actually. So if you had the one of Nate's, first of all, the hockey jersey is heavier than the baseball jersey. But if you had the one of Nate's jersey falls before the 40-minute mark, congratulations, you win.
Took the under,
you win.
I mean, you touched on a good point. I mean, I don't think Vogt's going to stick with one lineup. And personally, I would stick with the same set of players. I wouldn't really mix in or try to mix in a lot of guys. But Vogt, he's just going to use pinch hitters all the time, just like he did in the regular season. I don't think that's really going to change when you get down the stretch. But my question to you, which I've been thinking about this because Bo Naylor has not been doing great. Do you want to see Bo Naylor out in the postseason? Because my thing on it is if you look at the numbers for every pitcher we have with Hedges behind the plate, they're significantly better on the mound. And I know Hedges can't hit to save his life. Let's just put it how it is. The dude just can't. He doesn't have a bat. But behind the plate, I think he's an all-star level defensive catcher.
Sure.
And he makes the pitchers just 10 times better too. So my question to you is: do you want to see Bo Naylor at all, or do you want to see maybe Hedges, the veteran, get most of the reps, and that'll obviously make the pitchers a little better too?
So I think that's part of the dichotomy that I was saying Stephen Vogt should probably go with, because I mean, look, during the season when Carrasco was still a part here of this lineup, you saw nobody else but Austin Hedges catching those games. I think when you have a guy like Gavin Williams or you have a guy like Tanner Bybee on the mound, you need to go with Austin Hedges, who's going to be able to frame pitches better, who's going to be able to get more strikeouts, who's going to be able to get more outs faster. That's just the way it is. But I also think it depends on the matchup the Guardians get, which is why I'm sort of saving any like prediction thing before we really, because for all intents and purposes, it would take the opposite of a miracle for the Guardians to not make the MLB postseason.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be playing playoff baseball. Is it going to be as the division winner? Is it going to be as a wild card team? Don't know yet. We have to wait and see. But when you look at this team and just the amount of different teams that this team can play, I think it depends on the matchup, because I think if you go with a team that has not had a superb offense this season like the Houston Astros, yeah, you're probably going to want to play Hedges a little more often than you do Bo Naylor. But because of Bo Naylor's offensive potential, and look, he's inconsistent to all end. We all know this. This is the story with Bo Naylor. He is inconsistent. He can, the fact of the matter is, he can hit home runs, he can drive runs in, and if you need offense, you'll take every single bat you can get to make your lineup deeper. Austin Hedges, for the most part, he's had a couple games this season, one against Detroit where he was able to bunt a run home. I think even against Kansas City a couple of times this year, he's been able to get runs. That Pittsburgh series, I think he was able to hit a little bit as well. Austin Hedges has his moments, but for the most part, and I don't think this is arguable, Bo Naylor is a 10 times more dangerous bat.
Oh, for sure. I think
than Austin Hedges.
I can find maybe even some high school kids that have a more dangerous bat than Austin Hedges.
That pitcher we drafted from high school might have a more dangerous bat than Austin Hedges.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Maybe Davenport can put a bat in his hand. He might be able to do something.
But no, so I think it really
like
does depend. I think it really does depend on the matchup, because if you get a team that is just full of offensive firepower, like the Yankees, or if somehow you have to play the Orioles, both of which are possibilities that the Guardians have to face, and those lineups are stacked, I just really think it's going to depend on that. That's a very, very interesting question. That's a very, very
right.
Interesting
and
question.
I mean, it's something you kind of have to think about, because it's not just the defensive presence; it's making the pitchers better too. So, I mean, obviously, you don't want Hedges' bat in the lineup, but you want his defense. And Bo Naylor's really inconsistent. So, and I'm not saying Bo Naylor's bad behind the plate. It's just he's, like you mentioned, and we've said it 5 times.
Bo Naylor could go 2 for 4. Bo Naylor could go 2 for 4 with a double and a home run and 3 RBIs, or he could go 0 for 5 and 3 strikeouts. Like,
right,
that's
and
just
have 2
the
pass
reality
balls
of Bo
go by him. So,
right.
I don't know.
And you can't afford that in the playoffs at all. But
for sure.
But when you transition into the rotation, again, kind of like you and I were both saying last week, we knew that the 28th man or one of these September call-ups was not going to be a pitcher because of how much talent Columbus has had to get from pitching from Akron and from other levels and guys that have been inconsistent this year. There was just no way any pitcher was going to get called up to Cleveland from Columbus. But when you take a look at the pitching for the Guardians right now, I mean, you touched on it a little bit, I do believe, but that rotation is going to be cut down to 3, maybe 4 guys when the playoff time comes. Bybee's a lock, Williams is a lock, and those are really the only 2 guys that I think are locks for that rotation right now. Who are the other guys that could get thrown in there? Cantillo,
I think
Boyd,
Lively.
Cobb,
Lively.
Yes, Lively. Sorry, I all apologies to Ben Lively. That shame on me.
I think it's personally. I think
so
it's Bybee, Gavin Williams. I think Lively's in there as well. And I ever since we signed Boyd, I've been in love with Boyd. I think Cobb obviously not going to be in that lineup. Carrasco, he's hurt, and personally, I don't want to see him come out of. I don't really want to see him come out of Arizona at all. Obviously, want him to get healthy, but I don't want him on my team during the postseason.
Love the dude. Love what he's done, and
I feel like
he's an absolute legend. If there is a legend
bringing
Ring
him
of
on,
Honor, he goes in it
for sure. Him, Kluber, Bauer, Clevenger. I mean, the days of like 2017. But I think a big part of bringing him back was just kind of like a feel-good story and to have a veteran in the clubhouse. I mean, I don't
And
really
he's had his starts. Like
a
he's had
couple here and
moments.
there, but it wasn't great. So obviously, I don't even think he gets in a bullpen role, even if he can get healthy and go.
Nope.
So I really think it's just
Nope.
those four I kind of just named: Bybee, Gavin Williams, Lively, and Boyd. If you're gonna have a fourth guy, which I love everything that Boyd's been doing, he's been absolutely on fire ever since he just got back from his injury and just good to go ever since we signed him. So
Gavin Williams is really starting to find his rhythm. You mentioned Bybee, who seems to just have this period where he's really good for a couple months and then he's really bad for a couple of weeks. He's in that stretch of being really good. We need him to stay that way for the postseason. Ben Lively has been good all season long for a couple things here and there. I mean, Ben Lively's been fantastic. If there's any questions that anyone in the chat has thrown up here that you feel like you want to answer,
I
we
was
can.
just about to bring that up.
Oh yeah, go for it.
So we're kind of jumping all over the place with guys coming up and going back down. So another guy right here is Bazana. Will he get a shot at maybe Akron before the playoffs? And just like to see it this quick. Personally, I mean,
Okay, so first off, thank you, Tyson. I assume you are related to Tavin over here. Last name looks very similar.
Yeah.
Tavin, if not, go ahead and correct me otherwise. But thank you for commenting. Thank you for watching the show, first off. And I mean, Tavin, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I do believe where my dear co-host was going with this is that there's no need to rush him.
Kind of. So here's my thing with it. Obviously, we all want to see him in Akron. Like, there's no doubt about that whatsoever. It's just, is the time right? My personal thing with it is, he's been doing good in Lake County. Is it time to bring him to Akron? My personal thing with it is, you saw Chase DeLauder do the exact same thing last year, 2 years ago when we took him in the draft. He rode out all year. The last week, he played 6 games with Akron. Could we see the same thing with Bazana for his first full season in pro ball? Last 6 games, we saw him with Akron. Could we see the same?
My personal belief and opinion on it is like, absolutely, yes, we could, because obviously, to what your point, the Guardians organization has done it before. They did it with Chase DeLauder, the former number 1 top prospect in this organization. The organization has done it before. So would it surprise me? No. Do I want to see it happen? I'm going to say no for a couple of reasons. One, it wouldn't bother me at all to see Bazana get that call up to the Akron. I just think that right now, the guys that are in Akron have such good chemistry going.
Oh, for
they
sure.
are playing really, really good baseball. They are on absolute fire right now, heading into that postseason series against Erie. And I don't think you want to mess with that chemistry. Maybe if Akron needed to fill a piece in, sure, go for it. But especially
like instead of Burgos, if they were to bring him up, okay, maybe fill in a guy if somebody goes down. But now I'm not sure
but then you have to look. Then you have to look in the talent pool where he's in, right? So the middle infielders that the Ducks have right now: Tolentino,
Frias, Khalil
Watson. All of those guys have been spectacular, and
for sure,
at least at different points in the season, and were spectacular in this past series. And I mean, who do you send back down? Like what role does Bazana fit into? And
really nobody, because you have Tyrese Turner.
Exactly.
A guy you just brought up, and I love Tyrese Turner. The dude's just he's just filling in great. So not a lot of room, like you said. I'm pretty sure they could find somewhere if they really wanted to, but
third base is kind of that one thing that, like, hey, the Ducks don't have a guy to solidify at third base.
It's kind of Frias, Tolentino fill in here and there. With third base.
And Bazan is not going to play third base. You're not going to play him at third base. And maybe you move Watson to the outfield and Burgos plays every now and again. I just think that A, the Ducks have too much chemistry, and B, you want Bazana on that playoff roster for Lake County, because we know the Ducks are, again, the bigger team, quote unquote. They probably have a little bit of a bigger following, and of course they are
you could technically
a higher up level.
depending on what Lake County does. He
Oh,
could fit in on both playoff
I didn't
rosters.
really think about that.
But here's my thing. I mean, you really pointed at where's he going to play? Because my personal Ducks roster that I want to see go into the playoffs, I want Cody Huppy on the plate. I want
Yep.
Kafis at first. I want
Yep.
Watson. Watson is second. Yordis Valdez at short. Tolentino at third.
Yep,
Then
I
the
agree, 100%.
In the outfield, I want Lampy in left, Petey in center, Planez in right, and then have Cooper Ingle DH, and then Davenport on the mound. That's just my personal thing. With
And
that,
then if Halpin isn't healthy, you can have Burgos go out there and play center too.
or Tyrese Turner, or I want to say there's somebody else I'm forgetting.
Guy Lipscomb.
Maybe not Guy Lipscomb. Even he can fill in. So, I mean, not really a lot to really put him there. Just kind of in the field. We got a question here from Ethan popping up here on the screen. Is there any possibility that anybody could get sent to Columbus from Akron that would leave a hole for Bizana to jump in? Another interesting part of this.
Yeah. So that's another interesting question again. Ethan, thank you for tuning into the show. We'll have to get you back on at some point here. Maybe
Keep
talk
in
a little.
mind,
Yeah. Maybe talk a little Guardians baseball.
Going nuclear live in about an hour. So
yeah. Hey, please,
tune into
go
that.
tune into Ethan. Yeah, go tune in to Ethan's show. Really good friend of the program, as Pat McAfee would say. Yeah. So really good questions from the chat today, by the way. Is there a I don't think so, just because of the chemistry thing that I talked about earlier. But again, this is a Guardians organization that has done this plenty of times before. That they're not shy about putting guys up that deserve to be out. Like they're just not shy about it.
My thing is also I don't
know if anyone gets sent down.
I don't think this late in the season they want to mix a lot of stuff up. I mean, definitely these guys have the talent to make the jump to Columbus. Like, there's no doubt about it. I think Tolentino, he has enough talent. I think Khalil Watson might be a little early, but I think he obviously has talent. The stats aren't really as much as he'd like to be there. But then you have a guy like Lampy, who I think has enough talent to go up to Columbus. And then you could plug maybe Khalil Watson, who plays outfield, and then take him. And then second base is freed up. So obviously there's talent in Akron. I just don't think, like you said, they want to mess with the chemistry. And more so, I just don't really see them making a ton of moves this late, especially with only Manzardo going up to Cleveland from Columbus.
I also think that if it does happen, which is also why I'm leaning towards there's just no way Bizana is going to come up, which obviously there is a way. I just personally don't think it's going to happen, is I think if there were to be a move from anyone from Akron going up to Columbus, it'd be a pitcher, 100%.
Maybe, but I don't really see where a pitcher might fit in either, though, in Columbus, because you have starting lineup right now for Columbus is Cantillo, Nikhazy, Will Dion, Ryan Webb, and I'm drawing a blank on who that fifth starter is.
Gillespie? No, he's a bullpen guy.
Well, who is that other guy for Columbus?
Because Sabrowski just got called up.
I'm going to go crazy. Yeah, Sabrowski was a bullpen guy too, though.
Yeah. You're right.
Logan
Why
Allen.
am I drawing a blank too?
And McKenzie. 6 guys right there. So I don't see a spot for Davenport or Peterson, which I pray to God none of them leave us at the moment. But I don't think Messick just got there. Peterson just got there. Denholm just got there. I don't think they're going anywhere. The only guys I could really see.
And Davenport's the ace. You can't just say, okay, Peterson, you're going to, even though I love Peterson, it probably would be Peterson that if Davenport goes anywhere.
Personally, I think Peterson has more skill by far, but I think the ace would be Tommy Mays. He has way more experience, and he's been down there since 2022. And that's another guy who I think is going to be the next pitcher that goes to Columbus. I thought he was going to get the bump over Ryan Webb initially before Ryan Webb got the promotion, but I just don't really see an opening for any of these guys in Columbus. So I probably starting next year is where you're going to see a lot of the moves.
So I think kind of what we're saying with both the Bizana with really the Bizana question as a whole, and from Lake County to Akron to Columbus, there's just not a spot. I mean, it's just a matter of who do you bring up, who do you send down, and the only thing, and I was thinking about this as you were answering the question, the only thing that can change this is injuries, and you never predict an injury, never.
Don't want them either.
No. Absolutely. Not,
Obviously.
especially now with either of those three teams that are playing really good baseball. Two of them are in the postseason. One of them is really on their way to being in the postseason if they can hang on and play as good a baseball as they're playing right now. But I mean, when you take a look back at just I really don't see any situation because there's no pitcher that can get called up to Columbus from Akron. There's no position player that can get called up to Columbus from Akron. There's really no room for anyone to be sent down.
Personally,
no one is performing awfully at the AA level to be sent down. Everyone has, I mean, the one guy that you maybe would send down on on an offensive standpoint alone is Valdez, but he just had a great series and his glove is way too valuable when you include his defense.
You can't send Valdez down though.
No, absolutely not.
I was thinking about it earlier. I mean, if you really wanted to move like a Tolentino up, I could see Cairo getting put down back in Akron. He hasn't been doing bad at all, but I mean, his numbers are floating around in like the 230 range. But the only other position group that I can see even moving around is if you want to talk about the bullpen, I think there's a lot of action to be made there.
Oh, yeah.
Columbus's bullpen, not great. Akron's beautiful. And then I don't know a lot about Lake County's bullpen. Have heard about a couple names there, but just talking about Akron, Columbus, and Cleveland, I mean, there's guys in Cleveland like Eli Morgan who I think you just got to
love the guy at this.
He's just not good anymore. You just watch him go out. He's just getting rocked consistently. Tim Herron, another guy I know a lot of people are high on. Me personally, not the biggest fan of. I love
Tim Herron. I think,
I don't think he's that great though. But you have guys in the minor leagues, especially AAA. You have Franco Alaman, who's just been a beast. You have Tanner Burns, who I've absolutely loved since he was in Akron in 2022, and he's been solid. And then obviously you have the Akron boys. You have Bradley Hanner, who's just amazing. Lenny Torres. I could just go on and on about those guys for hours. But definitely some moves to be made around the bullpen.
Any other questions there from the chat? Because I do want to ask you one question before the show is over. And
that's it from the chat. For now.
So the one question that I have for you before we wrap the show up, very quick hitting question here. What's a good win total for the Guardians to have at the end of the season for them to secure that first round bye? They're at 80 right now. I believe they have 23 games left.
What is
win 13, get to 93?
I'm trying to pull up our record at the moment, which we are.
I think they are 80 and 59.
80 and 59. So I would say a good number for them to be at, in my personal opinion. I think is 12. 92 wins, I think, should get it done because I don't see KC getting consistent, especially if we sweep them. I think their morale is going to just go way down. Minnesota's been struggling too, so I really think 12 wins should probably just get you in with 92 wins. Keep in mind that would only be 12 or
12 and 11.
10 wins short of my beginning of the season prediction, which was 102 wins.
And I think that was a very bold prediction on your part. But I probably am right there with you. I'm around the 12 to 13 range. I think that absolutely secures you a first round bye. It's definitely going to win you the division because in order for the Royals to go ahead and win 92, 93 games, the Royals would have to win 17 games, which is insane. All we are asking the Guardians to do, for those of you out there that may be like, 12, 13 wins, that seems like a lot. All we're asking them to do is play 500 baseball. If they could play 500 baseball the rest of the way, that's a top 2 team in the AL. And if they play better than that, hey, we'll absolutely welcome it. Don't go sub 500, please.
Yeah. Please. I mean, all you need is just 500. Really, from them, Columbus, both of them. Yeah. Really.
Yeah. I mean, Indianapolis can have a tendency to get hot down there in the AAA realm, but I think you're right. I think 500 baseball, especially for the Guardians, maybe 550 for the Clippers, will help drag both of those teams into where they want to be. Columbus, obviously, into the postseason, and then for Cleveland, having that first round bye there as well. Sir, anything to touch on? Noah's a little bit of a shorter episode today, but not really a whole lot to touch on. It'll be a massive episode, and we will get back to our normal day and time next week. Again, Labor Day kind of messed all that up. We will get back on Monday here at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. 5 o'clock my time, Central Standard, for all the people in my area of the country that may be watching. But yeah, I got nothing else unless you have another Guardians question you want to propose here.
No, that's about it. If we pretty much want to give our rundown on what's happening this week for the affiliates, but
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
we
Akron, Lake County already clinched, so nothing much there. Got Lynchburg pretty much out of it, but
yeah.
Cleveland and Columbus, obviously, this is the biggest time of the year for them. So,
Oh yeah,
a lot to look forward to there. Not much on the lower end of the spectrum, but big two. That's the biggest you're going to get for them all year. So
let's start with Lynchburg, because again, they are eliminated from playoff contention. They're finishing up a series with Fredericksburg. They got 4 games left. They lost the first 2. Hey, just finish the season strong for Lynchburg and get these guys some really good playing time. That's really
same with your rookies in pro ball. You just got to get them into it.
Yeah, that's really all you can ask for. Lake County. Let me pull them up real quick. I had Akron pulled up, but Lake County is going to be finishing this season off against Peoria. And then they are diving on into the playoff series against Dayton, which we will be previewing a ton next week. You go ahead and dive on into Akron. Of course, they dropped that first game against the Richmond Flying Squirrels. They're down 1-0 right now in game 2 of that series. But again, with the sweep of Bowie, don't get complacent now. Don't slow down and think, we're in the postseason. We can relax. No, stay hot, boys. Get on fire.
Sure.
Get absolutely rolling. They have, as we mentioned earlier in the show, Richmond and then Hartford. And then it'll be that playoff series against Erie, which, again, really excited about. Columbus, a lot of teams that are sub 500. Again, they've already lost the first 2 games against Durham at home. You probably want to win the rest of the 4 games there at home against Durham to close out this series. And then in their next series, I believe they play St. Paul and then they play Toledo. All teams of which I think are sub, if not really darn close to that 500 mark, either above, below, give or take a couple of games. All teams that Columbus should be able to win. Now, how much does Manzardo leaving that team affect it? Maybe something we can talk more about next week if the Clippers struggle in this series against Durham. And then, of course, for the Guardians, you heard me list their schedule already here earlier. Tavin and I are both saying 500 baseball should get you a top 2 seed. And for Columbus, 500 to 550. Anything better is absolutely going to be welcomed, but you at least got to turn around this series against Durham. So 1 series left for Lynchburg and Lake County, 2 series left for Akron, 3 series left for the Columbus Clippers, and a whole month of baseball left to go for the Cleveland Guardians, sir.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This week, I mean, as I already said, it's just you got to play 500 baseball for the Guardians, and Clippers just have to stay hot. So.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Prospects of the Land. I got to go prepare for a flag football game, so we're about to go do that. Hopefully we get that win. I'm really excited to be diving back into flag football this year. And, sir, you have a good rest of your night as well.
Yeah, you too. Same time, just back to our normal day next week. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Back to our normal day. We appreciate everybody watching, as usual. Go Guards, go Clips, go Ducks, go Captains, go Hellcats. All of the things. Go sports teams. We will see you next week.
Next Monday.